The year of the Phoenix is ending, and with this I wanted to talk about the best and worst things being added during this time in my opinion. The topic is very subjective, so if you have different thoughts about it, then write them down in the comments. The best new mechanic. For me it is dual class cards, dividing so much design space, and these cards are available for 2 more classes than the average class card. We had a similar theme in Ministries of Gadgetzan with trio class cards, but they were limited in design to support a certain theme, and here the developers can choose something they find in common in a combination of 2 classes. The best game design direction. For me it is RNG reduction, and by this I mean powerful cards that are either created by, like lackeys, or some random effect that decides the game outcome. It didn't happen immediately, as we had a lot of latter in Ashes of Outland with stuff like Solarian, and having Solarian Prime costing 7 mana, and Evocation. But it started looking like the developers started reducing the game-breaking RNG from Skullomans, and from what we see in Fortuned Barrens, that's the direction they will keep following, and the remains of these crazy cards are currently only from Ashes. The worst moment of the year. For me it is Ashes of Outland, combination of OP Demon Hunter launch, who did get 13 nerfs just during the Ashes of Outland set, and even more later on. Tons of broken cards outside of Demon Hunter class that got nerfed, like Shadow Jeweler Hanar, Blackjack Stunner, Dark Glare, Solarian, Evocation, Fungal Fortunes, Bloodboil Brute, Scrap Imp, Corsair Cache, and even more borderline broken cards that weren't nerfed, at least yet. The biggest problem for me was uninteractivity in most games you had back then, to an extent that I stopped playing the game for 2 or so months until Skullomans was released. The best set. For me it is Skullomans Academy. In contrast to Ashes, we saw almost every class in play, and most of the classes got the different archetypes to play with, like Aggro Rogue and Miracle Rogue, Aggro Demon Hunter and Soul Demon Hunter, Pure or Libram Pal, and so on. It's not to say that we didn't have broken or annoying things even here, but what we got here is just a huge improvement from what we had one set earlier. For the worst game design direction, I decided to pick 2 moments. One being obvious combo enablers. The direction of current combo decks is to draw almost all your deck by turn 6 or 7 and finish your opponent basically on next turn. This creates very unfunny and uninteractive playfield where you either have to race those combo decks very hard and very fast, or you are priest, or you will inevitably die. It's probably happening because of centerpieces for combo decks cost around 4 to 5 mana like Yogg and N'Zoth or Mazaki, instead of what we had in the past for decks we were calling combo, like 9 mana Malygos and 10 mana Mekafu. For me, second worst game design direction being adding tons of cheap card draw, and this goes together with the first problem. It is partially enabling combo decks even more, but also it is creating some very fast aggressive decks that can finish you off on turn 4 or 5, no matter how good the start you've got. And even when you win such games, you will rarely feel pleasure, but you will feel exhausted. The best design card. It was hard for me to choose any one card in particular, both in terms of its effect and playability, so I decided to pick few of them. First being Relgo. Looks to me like this is the perfect finisher for control decks. Of course it kinda looks broken right now with the fact that you can copy multiple 9/9 Rattlegores with Bloodsworn Mercenary, but soon it will rotate and you'll have only one of it, and you can either fight it so it becomes small enough, it's not a problem, or you can find a way to remove it or even mind control it with Silas, Hex, and so on. For another card that I really like in terms of design is Lord Barrow. It looks like it's the perfect fit for dual class card because it uses key moments of those classes. From Paladin it's getting Equality effect, and from Warrior it's getting Whirlwind effect that will guarantee you most of the time a full board clear. And for last one, surprisingly I decided to pick Yogg. You may have a different opinion about Yogg's, but this one was very well designed. It's never guaranteed that you will just remove the enemy's board, and you have to think carefully about playing it. Maybe you will mind control an empty board, or you will destroy all your minions to transform Yogg into an only big minion. Of course the Road of Roasting moment is kinda weird for me, but that's basically Hearthstone in a nutshell. The worst design card. For me it's obviously Lucio. I'm not even talking about the 2 mana version of it, because that was the real terror. And even at 3 mana it's still bonkers. And this card alone makes Priest a very good class against any combo deck, because you can just simply disrupt it by playing some of their combo pieces and make it so they have no way to win the game otherwise. And even if you are playing just a slow control deck, you should be ready to see enemy priest elucidate you and dump some stuff you were saving for a specific moment. The strongest class. Rogue is the best class for this year by mile. You might say that Demon Hunter is above it, but if not counting the dominance of Ashes of Outland meta, Demon Hunter is rarely the best class, and there are certainly ways to fight it back. With Rogue, had very good decks all the time. At the start we had Galakron Rogue, then we had Stealth Rogues and Miracle Rogues throughout 2 expansions, and for last 4 months there is no reliable way to beat Wilkick Rogue. They can outpace you, they can outgrind you, even without having a lot of late game minions, because most of the time they will simply generate it. The weakest class. If not counting the short-lived dominance of a Wolf Shaman, this class overall wasn't very good, a consistent tier 1 and even most of the time tier 2 class. The main problem for why Shaman wasn't a good class for most of the time is that it doesn't have a lot of card draw, and it's very hard for you to build aggro deck without card draw, because if your border is removed once, you can't do anything. You can't build a decent control deck because you're basically playing on a top deck mode, plus you have no real way to finish games. Not to say there are no good Shaman decks, but even stuff like Totem Shaman is easily counted most of the time at top ranks, because unless you're high rolling from the start, one block clear would mean that you will lose the game 100%. The most dominant archetype. For standard there are 2 very dominant archetypes. First being Aggro Demon Hunter in Ashes of Outland. Even though they've got a lot of cards nerfed, Demon Hunter was finding new broken stuff to dominate everyone with. And the only time you can call Demon Hunter balanced during Ashes of Outland was right at the end of the expansion, when the Demon Hunter got 13 nerfs, and most of the nerfs were targeting their aggro deck. And for the second dominant deck, I've picked the Wolf Shaman because even though his dominance was very short-lived for 3 or so weeks, this deck was so game warping, and the evolved mechanic proved once more to be a very bad thing if it becomes a centerpiece for high tier Shaman archetype. And for wild, I've picked Darkglare Warlock. This deck got nerfed once, but it didn't change anything. It's still a very strong high roller deck that can cheat out giants before you can answer them most of the time. The worst addition to the game. For me it was Tavern Pass at the launch. The main problem with Tavern Pass at the launch was that we were told that this will be a new system for players to get a decent amount of gold, a lot more than in the past, but it turned out to be a lie. There was a huge outrage on Reddit, some of it was done by YouTube creators, and it obviously looked like a thing that was just so maybe people won't riot and they will stick to this plan, but it didn't work out for them. And for the best addition to the game is current Tavern Pass. Looks very generous and seems to be baseline for next expansions, as we saw it in Forging Barrens. With enough grind you can get a lot more gold now, and so you don't even have to pay for new expansion packs to just keep up. And the best meme? For me, those are Tavern Pass memes, because some of them were really hilarious and you would have had a good laugh. And also Boulder Fist Ogre memes. They might look silly or dumb, but they have good stats for its cost. And that's it for this video. It was interesting for me to make some sort of recall on notable moments we've got in the last year. I hope that the next year of Hearthstone will be even greater, that we'll not have incredibly broken stuff, and that playing Hearthstone will be an enjoyable experience. If you have some interesting topics you want me to discuss, then you can write them down in the comments. If you like this kind of video or content I'm making on this channel, then make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel so that more people can watch it too. Have a good one.